Okay, looks like I should be live. Gonna make sure it all works out as always. And this time I'm going to be just kind of catching up on the news. Basically, I don't really have much of a plan. Oh, there we go. So I'm just going to talk about at least a couple of the big things that have happened since I haven't streamed in a little while. I don't know what it's been, a couple weeks since at least before Thanksgiving, I guess. So obviously, the really big news that happened, I guess this was last weekend, I think, maybe last Friday. I don't remember exactly. It was several days where it was leading up to it, and everybody saw it coming. And Assad is now gone. His regime has fallen. No longer in power. No longer in control of Syria. He's fled to Russia. And I heard a lot of different sort of takes on this, which I thought were interesting. I guess I don't know. Like, to me, there was people saying, you know, this is not a good thing or a bad thing. It's sort of a mixed thing, and we don't know. We'll have to see. I think it's. I understand what they're talking about, but the Assad regime collapsing and being gone is obviously like a net good. I don't even think it's particularly close. Like, I get what they mean when they're saying the guys taking over now are like some terrorist organization. A lot of them used to be Al Qaeda and ISIS and stuff. Sure, sure, but they obviously they don't like Iran. They're not going to be proxies for Iran. Apparently, that's what they're saying. Time will tell. I guess we don't know. But what was happening before was Assad was essentially just allowing Iran to ship weapons and supplies and uh, people, really anything, through that area, right into Lebanon, and kind of around, and even into Israel, the whole Levant area, basically. Uh, Probably helping out, go through Jordan into Hamas, and that's been taken away from them. That little land bridge just got blown the fuck up. Not to mention Hezbollah's like destroyed, and so is Hamas. So is Hamas anyway. Uh, but that's going away. Like, the people that are taking over obviously don't like them very much. They're Sunnis, Iran Shia, but it goes beyond that because Iran has worked with Sunnis before. Like, that's not like out of the realm possibility. These people, I think, particularly don't like them because they were friends with Assad. The other part of that is obviously the Russians taking an L on that. It's a much bigger deal for Iran than anybody else, and that's why I see it as just an overall good thing. Is largely because of what it does to Iran, who's already just got their shit pushed in on every front. On every front, like, they have nothing left. Like, what the hell do they have left besides trying to get nuclear bombs? That's really it at this point. When you look at what's happened to them over the past, I don't know, 6 months to, hey, I guess a year, really, since the October 7th attack happened. Two of their proxies are virtually completely destroyed: Hezbollah and Hamas, and that's like a huge uh, weapon for them. That's part of how they strike out against other nations. That's part of their over the horizon capabilities, is their proxies. That's how they attack other people and retaliate and stuff. Two of their biggest ones are just destroyed. Uh, and then, Assad gone too. Not that he wasn't, I guess, particularly useful other than for allowing them access to the region. And then on top of that, they were just exposed as being a total paper tiger. Like, the other big thing they have in their arsenal to reach out and retaliate and hurt other nations that they've always had, but they haven't really used, so they were never exposed, was their missiles and their drones. Shitload of missiles and drones. I think a while back they attacked like a Saudi oil field and did a lot of damage with some of this stuff. That just was proven to be completely fucking useless, essentially, at this point, after they launched two massive attacks at Israel doing almost no damage at all. So they don't have their proxies. Their missiles and drones aren't doing shit. What do they have? They're not going to march troops like across Iraq to go over there. All they've got left is nukes. And I guess they still have their terrorist groups and there's other proxies, but it's really everything's crumbling for them. So I think it's obviously a net good that Assad has fallen on top of this. And part of the reason Assad fell is because of the war in Israel, because Hezbollah is collapsing, because they're putting pressure on them. And because, the Russians are tied up in Ukraine, there's no one to help Assad keep control. And like I was starting to say earlier, for the Russians, it's less of a big deal. It's still a pretty big deal. It's always good to kick them in the nuts whenever we get the chance. So, and I'm not convinced totally that these guys, these new terrorists, I suspect they won't want to work with the Russians or anyone that was helping Assad because he was, like gassing them with chemicals and all this other stuff. And Assad's hiding in Russia right now. One thing I kind of joked about was maybe the Russians to make a deal in order to keep their little naval base down there, and I think they have an air base in Syria somewhere too. Maybe to make a deal with the new guys, they're gonna like just hand Assad over to them and let him do whatever they want with the guy. Like we'll just trade you him for our naval base. I kind of doubt it. I don't think these new people are gonna want to work with Putin either, but we'll see. Uh, Part of the reason people are saying, oh, it's a mixed bag. Don't count your chickens too early or whatever. Like, oh, we don't know what's going to happen here, and they're partially right. Like, time will tell. There probably will be terrorist attacks that emanate from there. We'll see. The people taking over, like I said, are probably terrorists. That's what it seems like. Come from Al Qaeda and ISIS. However, they're still going to be tied up and sort of bogged down. I think they're still going to be fighting for control of Syria because the Kurds still control like half the country. Uh, Turkey and Qatar are really the ones kind of taking over, is what it seems like. And they might try to squash the Kurds. And that could be a pretty bad thing. I wouldn't like that. I'm personally kind of hoping, and this is probably unrealistic, but I'm hoping that maybe they can cut some sort of a deal out of this where they're just tired of it and they want to come to the table with them. And maybe we could get like a Kurdistan out of this. That's kind of the best case scenario. Probably not going to happen. Probably pie in the sky. But you never know. Maybe they'll cut some new deal with the new regime and they'll say, all right, Kurds, you can have this little patch of the desert over here to live in, which is better than nothing, which is what they had before. And they can have that, and we'll take, the nice area by the coast and all of this. And they'll just be, sort of a proxy for Turkey and the Qataris and shit. Ultimately, it's probably going to be turning into like a terrorist hotbed, a terrorist safe haven, just like Afghanistan, probably. But overall, I think it's generally good. I don't think it's that confusing. Like I said, I understand with all the caveats and whatever, but given how badly it hurts Iran and sort of hurts Russia too, I think it's worth it. Let's see what you guys are saying before I move on to the next little topic here. Led to Assad's downfall. Yeah, that's what I was saying earlier. Russia's all tied up with Ukraine, and Israel's taking out all of Iran's proxies that probably would have help Assad keep power. No one was there to help him, and he obviously couldn't hold on to power himself. Not even a little bit, like not even close. They didn't even try and put up a fight. Don't like Erdogan? Yeah, I don't either. Yeah, he has humiliated Putin. So I guess there is that. Bring Spooky back. I don't know. He's he probably only comes around like once or twice a year at this point. All right, so let's see. That's basically all my thoughts on the Assad being gone. Overall, it's a good thing. I understand why people are a little bit like hesitant to say that, uh, but I think it's just obviously good. Hurts all the right people at the right moment, and the downsides, we don't know. We'll have to see. I don't think I'm sure there could be downsides. There could be a lot of bad shit that happens, but I don't know that it isn't still worth it just to knock Assad off and get rid of him, and then we'll deal with the consequences of that later if they're and like I expect it to be bogged down, and I think the civil war is going to continue. The worst thing that could probably happen from it is they keep fighting the Kurds and just like completely fucking destroy them because now they're not busy with Assad, so they all just turn on the Kurds and they're backed by Turkey and Qatar and go take them out. But we'll see. New government said they want to move towards a market economy. Yeah, I mean they're saying a lot of shit. They think they also said like didn't they also say that we're going to be like we were going to welcome all of the religious minorities and diversity's our strength or whatever they said. I don't know. And these people are like all Islamists, and then it was like the next day they're like all the religious minorities need to come register with the state or whatever. I don't know. I think that's just something I heard, but they say a lot of stuff. The Taliban was saying they were going to be like feminists or whatever uh, whenever we were leaving. So I have no idea if we'll see. We'll see is all I have to say about how these new guys go. Um, the one thing I'm pretty sure of, though, is that they're not going to cooperate with Iran. They don't like them. And I'm pretty sure they're not going to cooperate with the Russians either. I don't think they like those guys. I don't think they like us. I don't think they like us either. But we'll see. The next thing I was going to move on to was the CEO murder thing. I never thought I would have like a comment to say about something like that because it's not really something I would ordinarily cover or talk about, but it is kind of shocking, you know, seeing all of these people basically praising a murderer or at least saying like, he's got a point. He's got a point. Like, maybe what he did was wrong, but the guy's got a good point. And it's important we talk about this. It's like the dude just like shot some poor bastard in the back and killed him, and everyone's like, yeah, but he was rich. Like, what the fuck kind of an excuse is that? The guy who shot him was rich too. He was a rich kid. I mean, like, he's deranged, he's crazy, and the reason he shot him was what? Because people get some bad customer service from their health insurance. And I know that their big point is like, oh well, they're denying claims from people. They don't like there's some malevolent bastard sitting around at the top of this, like whatever that guy's name was. What was it, Brian something, the CEO? He's just sitting up there, like looking over, poring over the fucking like files, like, oh, here's some kid with cancer. Uh, I want to make an extra, $1 million bonus. So I'm going to deny this little kid with lung cancer and hope he dies or something. Like, this is what the way these people talk about this is that they talk about it as if that is what's happening, which is the most insane fucking thing. Like, do you realize, does that health insurance CEO, does he get credit for all of the people that they do insure, that they do cover, for all of the lives that they save? Does he get credit for that? I'm guessing not. Apparently not. All the millions of people whose health insurance they have provided for, whose care they have paid for. I mean, that's what the service does. And then what are they going to complain about the profit? It's a company. It has to make a profit. There'd be no one they wouldn't be doing it at all. And you would just be fucked. I mean, I get that it's a little more complicated than that in America because of the way our healthcare system's so fucking weird now, that it's like this weird quasi like hybrid of government care and private industry because of the way it's all subsidized and shit. Personally, I think, and I don't really know, I think it would be better if we just went one direction or the other. There's probably negatives to both those things. If you just go all the way to state funded, just a nationalized healthcare system, there's obviously going to be negatives to that. And then if you go the other direction, totally privatized, obviously there could be issues with that too. But the way we have it right now, you're getting maybe a little bit of the good of both, but a lot of the bad of each of those two. And people are just confused as shit to the point where they're like celebrating some fucking murderer because he killed some guy who was just doing his job as the CEO of a health insurance company. doing nothing. And it's not like they're making like, I mean, I know he makes a lot of money. He's a fucking CEO. If you want someone that can competently do that job, guess what? Guess what? You're gonna have to pay him a lot of fucking money because that person, that guy, could go get a job managing some other giant fucking company. And if you want someone that can do that job competently, you're gonna have to pay them out the ass. I'm sorry, we can't just go get some Joe fuckface who's never done this before and put him in charge and expect it to go well. We're gonna pay him, $30 an hour, and they might complain about that too, for all I fucking know. If the guy was making more than minimum wage, they might bitch. But these companies, i- their profits are like 2 to 3%, something like that, is what they're getting. So I think that's their profit margin. And so they don't have like a lot of room to play around with. Like we're gonna just like cover every fucking thing that comes through. I don't think they can do it. I don't think it's possible. Some people are gonna have to get fucking denied. You can't just like cover fucking like there's legitimate reasons to deny coverage sometimes. That's another fucking thing. And all of this is beside the point. I mean, this is what they all want, is for us to be talking about the fucking health insurance shit instead of the terrorist who just killed some innocent poor bastard who was walking down the street. And it's disgusting when they're just like, oh well, but yeah, but he's rich, so what? He's not a human being, and they're like, no, yeah, he was in charge of a company that denied some coverage to somebody once that died, so fuck him. That's kind of, I think I labeled it Gen Z doing this. To be fair, it's not just Gen Z. It's probably mostly them. A lot of them. I've seen a lot of them doing it, making memes, saying they love this guy. Oh, he's fucking amazing. It's crazy. Or at least they're saying, oh, well, we understand why he did it. He had a good reason to do that. And like, I'm not going to be sad about this. This guy getting killed for just doing his damn job. Like, sorry. I'm so fucking sorry. Like, what if, how does this never go the other direction? It never goes toward like any other fucking thing. That's what I don't fucking get. Like, what if we did nationalize our healthcare? Some people are still going to get fucking denied. Does that mean we get to go murder people now? We need to go murder members of the government because someone was getting fucking denied because the government's doing it? Like, how does this work? Where the fuck does it stop? And then there's back to the other thing of they never get credit for all the people who they do cover and whose lives they do save. Apparently, if we're going to give them credit for the deaths, they don't get credit for that either. Of course not. That's not how mindless outrage works. Murder's worse than R. I can't tell what that emoji is. Our hands are. Is that a lock? I can't tell what that picture is. Sorry, it's worse than something. United Health has a profit margin of 6%. Okay, 6%. Prediction of the Trump administration. My prediction is that he will be a lame duck president because he has because he's incompetent and he has a very small majority. 2020 to 2015 Republicans. Yeah, it's probably gonna. It could be even smaller than that actually. You're talking about the House majority. Yeah, it. I think that's before you subtract away the people that he's pulling out of the House. It's like I want to say it's 3 people. I think Matt Gaetz is already out, so I think that number already accounts for that. And I think Matt Gaetz' seat is probably safe anyway. But I think there was at least 1 or 2 seats that might get flipped back. They have a pretty good shot because uh, Democrats are going to be all fired up about having been lost, the party out of power, and the Republicans aren't going to care because they've already won everything. They're not going to be thinking about it. So it could be even closer than that. And they have a small lead in the Senate too. I think it's 3 seats, so really 4 because they have the VP. But still, that's not very big. And let's see. Yeah, but so back to that was the other thing I was going to talk about was the Trump stuff. I'll finish with that. With the nominations for his cabinet. So obviously Matt Gaetz is gone. I don't know if I ever even talked about that. He had to withdraw his name. I probably did. He had to withdraw before he even got there. And I think last time I talked about this was with Wyatt, and I had said I thought at least one or two of the three that we were talking about at that point, um, three kind of controversial people. At that point, I said one or two of them's not going to get through, is what I figured. I'm going to count Matt Gaetz as one because to me, they will withdraw their name before they go to the nomination. It's extremely rare that somebody like actually goes to the nomination and gets a no vote, especially from their own party. But even just overall, like it's like voted down like that. Like never happens apparently. I think since in the last like 30 years or something, there's been like two. There's been like two candidates. I don't know if that's just voted no by their own party or like overall just like not got in based on votes. Usually they withdraw or they get taken out before they get there because there's no point. Like you already know. You already know before you get. It's like if you're bringing a bill, you already know if it's going to get the votes or not before you go have a vote. So Matt Gaetz is already out. I was hoping that since that happened so quickly, and I had made this point when I was talking to Wyatt, was I thought that it couldn't be all three because they're going to have to focus down on one or two people. And I was hoping, okay, well Matt Gaetz is gone, so next they're going to go for Tulsi. Like that makes the most sense to me. Um, but they didn't, and this kind of pisses me off. Instead of going for her, they started focusing on Pete Hegseth, which was fucking crazy to me. Like it was, and I get why because they're digging up. There's these old accusations coming up, right? They're totally unsubstantiated by anything, as far as I can tell. It's just like anonymous people said stuff. As far as I can tell, that's it. They're not convincing any of the Republicans, as far as I can see. There was the thing where there was an email from his mom saying something, which was kind of a gross thing to even bring up. And apparently, it was like the next day or something. She sent out an email saying, "Oh, I'm sorry, I don't mean any of that," or whatever. She was just mad at him. Whatever. I mean, none of that is either here nor there. It's just pissing me off because the media and all of these people are wasting all of their time focusing their fire on Pete Hegseth, who's far less offensive to me. Like the most offensive thing about him to me is that he's basically underqualified. He's underqualified to do the job. You could just say he's unqualified. That'd be fine too. But I mean, there's no like specific parameters of like you must meet these qualifications. So technically, I don't know how you put it. He's less qualified than you would typically expect someone should be for that position. But his overall sort of vision seems okay. He's probably more of a yes man than I would want. Probably more of an ISO guy than I would like. But I think he's good on Israel, which is basically what you're going to expect from any Republican. Probably not as good on Ukraine as we would want, but no one in a Trump administration is going to be. And his overall thing, his main thing is like, I'm going to de-woke the military and improve the strength of the military, which is always good. That's good no matter what, okay? Just improving like the actual fighting force. Fine. I'm always good with that. So that's all good. It's okay. It's not ideal. He's not my favorite. All right. But he's not Tulsi fucking Gabbard. Like that woman should not be allowed within a million miles of any cabinet position, of any of them. I wouldn't want her to be the HUD secretary. I probably wouldn't bitch and complain that much at this point if they did that. But, she shouldn't be anywhere near the fucking administration, especially not director of national intelligence. And they should be focusing all of their fire on her. She's easily the most offensive of these people. I would even understand more if they were going after RFK because I understand different people prioritize different stuff. There's some people that might be upset about that because he's almost like anti-qualified for his job the same way Tulsi is for hers. But with him, he probably doesn't have any real power. He's not going to be able to do anything. With Tulsi, she will be able, and like I've said before, it's not that she's going to run off to Moscow with a suitcase full of state secrets and hand it off to Putin. Like, I don't think that's going to happen. But she could uh, obfuscate stuff and slow things down and try and bury things and confuse things and like downplay stuff that she thinks might lead to conflict. I could totally see her fucking doing that. She is, her judgment is not at all to be fucking trusted. When she basically she trusts the intelligence of our enemies more than our own. Okay? That's a huge fucking problem. And she's going to be the director of national intelligence. It's just, it's fucking wild to me. And her overall mentality is just, it's despicable. It's, you can't have someone like her. I can't believe we're even in this position. But here we are. So I am a little bit pissed about that. That they've been focusing on Pete Hegseth, which is a total waste of time. I didn't even consider him when I was talking to Wyatt and I was talking about the three people. Hegseth had already been nominated, but all these, accusations hadn't come out or whatever. We didn't even talk about him. We were like, oh yeah, he's kind of unqualified, but he's no problem. He's going to sail right through. We were talking about Matt Gaetz, who's gone, Tulsi Gabbard, and RFK. And now there's Kash Patel. I think he's probably going to get through too. He is actually technically qualified. Me not like Kash Patel. I don't like him. He's not my favorite. He's very conspiratorially minded, weird guy. He played up a lot of the QAnon stuff, and I think that was more about him trying to sell a book or something. But either way, he's very friendly with all the weird conspiracy brain, MAGA world stuff. So he wants to get rid of a lot of the important functions of the FBI. He basically wants to get rid of any kind of intelligence component to the FBI and turn them into just police, other than being national level police officers that are going out and arresting people. Anything besides that function, he wants to get rid of. What was it? The Hoover Building? He said he wanted to turn into a museum of the deep state or something. Not my favorite. But I think he was, what was he? Deputy? Was he deputy FBI director or deputy? He was something. Deputy chief of staff for somebody. I don't fucking remember. Kash Patel is bad, but he will not be the Herbert Hoover 2.0. So I'm not that scared, or not that scared for me. Tulsi is worse. Oh yeah, I think she's the worst, and that nothing about that has changed. You could throw all these other people in there, these other new people. There was someone else they were complaining about. I don't even remember now. I think it was it Trump's brother-in-law or something like that that he had appointed to be ambassador to France. I think it was something like that. But who gives a fuck? Who fucking cares about that? Yeah, I don't think RFK is really gonna do anything. I think he's gonna make a bunch of recommendations. At the most, what he'll do is he might commission a whole bunch of studies. Let's do studies on the negative health effects of yellow dye number 5. Which I'm fine with. I'm fine with doing studies. That's cool. Do all the studies you want. Knock yourself out, dude. But anyway, I think that's all I got. I was just sort of catching up on the news of Assad being gone, and the whole thing with the CEO killer that was pissing me off. Seeing all the coverage, and it's just nonstop coverage of that too. I think that's what was starting to annoy me. Just seeing it every day, and then all the fucking praise heaped on that guy. Totally fucking sickening. But it's not new, It's not new. I've seen people point this out before. You've had, times in the past, people are mad at the authority figures. You saw this with Bonnie and Clyde. People praising them and praising people like that during the Great Depression and stuff. There's a bunch of those people. All the bank robbers from the Great Depression, people were cool with because they were angry at the banks. They didn't care that these people were murdering anybody. It didn't matter. We're angry at the banks, so fuck them. Like that's kind of the animal brain that Americans tend to have sometimes. Let's see. I think that's about it. I can't really think of anything else. Seemed like I had something else to say about Assad being gone, but I don't recall now. I think I've got it all out there. Oh, the other thing that just occurred to me: we're talking about Assad going away. We're talking about Tulsi Gabbard. We're talking about people losing from this, the biggest losers, and probably, it's not really Iran, it's not really Russia, it's really Tulsi because her boo, her sweet boo, her, her boyfriend Assad is gone. He's in exile in Russia. No more dinner dates for Tulsi and Assad. I don't know. Actually, they might be able to still. She's probably tight with Putin too. So maybe I'm speaking too soon on that. She might might get to go visit him in his apartment with Edward Snowden. They get to chill out. They can have a picnic, all of them together. She can go on a double date with Assad and whoever. Who's Putin's wife? This Putin must be married. I don't know the name of his wife. The tankies are the biggest losers. Yeah, they were really upset about that. Very upset. They've been defending Assad for a while now, saying, "Oh, he's not going anywhere. He's not going anywhere." I do think we're gonna have to watch out for Iran now, because, like I said, all they've got left, I can think, are nuclear bombs. I don't see where else they go. I guess the Houthis are still chilling out, right? They're still hanging around. But I think there's going to be a big push. You got like what, 2 months? 2 months to go for the nuke. The other thing I forgot to mention was the violence sort of leading up to. I think I predicted before the election there would be some violence. Haven't really seen it yet. Not yet. I mean, unless we're going to count stuff like this Luigi CEO murderer guy, which I don't. I don't think that's particularly related to the election. There was the thing where Nancy Mace got like her arm broken or something by some trans rights activist that was mad that she wasn't letting trans people into the bathrooms of their choice. So I don't know what he did, pushed her or something. I'm not sure if he broke her arm, fractured it, whatever. She was wearing a sling. So anyway, I expect that we'll still see it. And it was like I said before, I thought it would probably be closer to Inauguration Day, probably on Inauguration Day. That's kind of, I think, what they did last time when Trump was elected. So we'll wait and see. It does seem like the left is already coming out and sort of going a little crazy with this stuff again. Where they're like justifying the murder. And what was the other thing I saw? Where it was like they were immediately coming out. Something had happened. It slipped my mind now. But it was like immediately these stories were starting to blow up again about radicalization. I think it was seeing Nick Fuentes starting to go viral like immediately again. And I think this was a point Fuentes even made himself, but I agreed with it. Was that like you'll start to see the left start blowing up, like, because if you noticed over the past 4 years, all the shit about like the alt-right and right-wing radicalization, that sort of fizzled out a little bit during the 4 years of the Trump administration. If you don't remember, it was like every other month we were getting stories, we were getting articles about online radicalization. The Pipeline Bros, anybody remember the Pipeline Bros? Oh, that's the other thing, another tie-in to the CEO murderer, is every time we get some terrorist that's like sort of affiliated with the right wing, it's always like this pipeline thing, right? It's a pipeline. Like it's really the fault of like the conservative commentators. They work it all the way back to where it's people that are even like, center left or like apolitical people. Like they would blame do you remember who was part of the alt-right pipeline? They were saying it was the intellectual dark web people Which, for those of you that don't know, like they were saying, this starts out with people like Sam Harris and Ben Shapiro, and who else was part of that? Dave Rubin, and these people. You're watching those guys, okay? Those guys. Joe Rogan, I think, was part of that. You watch those people, and that's like a gateway drug to becoming a Nazi. Was their argument? Like, how does that not work with these left wing people too? So when we have like some terrorist that murders a CEO, like we just saw, or another guy who goes and beats the crap out of Nancy Mace, some other violent lefty, and there's people saying, oh well, this Luigi guy was maybe not left wing, maybe he was, whatever the fuck. It wouldn't matter if it were running in the other direction. If it were someone that beat someone up because of abortion, it wouldn't fucking matter. They would say this is this is radicalization. This is a sign of a broader problem. And now we've got to talk about like Joe Rogan and all these fucking people, Fox News, whoever the fuck. And we've got to talk about how all of these people are actually bad because they're leading to this. The centrist right wing people. You never see that go the other way. You're never going to have a conversation about like maybe this socialist stuff has gone too far. Maybe these lefties on MSNBC who are ginning up hatred all of the time and talking about how healthcare is murder. Maybe that's got a little too far. Never going to happen. And you know what gets to me is whenever they say, "Oh, well, like maybe he's got a point," and we've got to talk about healthcare and all this. The other thing is, if you run this back in the other direction, like, are we gonna say this is okay for like the abortion murder? Like, if someone murders an abortion doctor, because right wing people, they think, a lot of them, pro life people, I should say, they think abortion's baby murder. So how the fuck are you not going to sit there and start talking about, oh, they've got a point, they've got really strong feelings about this, like that's more direct than your weird thing about healthcare, denying healthcare coverage being murder, somehow justifying it. If we're gonna play this fucking game, I mean, we could go on for days with this. Everyone could be pulling out their guns if we're gonna play that stupid fucking game. I don't think they want to do that. I don't want to do that. I don't want anyone like murdering people for fucking political reasons, but I'm just saying there's probably a more direct line those people could draw from like, oh yeah, this guy just murdered a baby. Like that's a lot more. You could disagree with it. You could disagree with it. I'm just saying, if you were like neutral and just looking at this from a neutral perspective, there's more of a direct line toward that than there is from like, I denied this person healthcare coverage and they got sick and died. I'm just saying. Blames himself for Kevin becoming a tanky. I probably not, because uh, he's anti-tanky, so I don't think he's responsible for Kevin becoming a tanky. Kevin was just crazy. He's always been crazy. He could be schizo. I don't know. Gogo Bashar dude was a Russian agent. I don't know who Gogo Bashar guy was. Yeah, psychopath. Could be. He could be. I mean, he could be crazy, but he might not be. Like, he could just be a terrorist. Because non-crazy people will do stuff like that for political reasons. Will go out and kill people. A lot of the like Islamist terrorists, extremist, Muslim extremist terrorists, that kind of thing. Most of those guys are not like insane. Like, it's not that they have like mental problems or something. They just believe crazy. The stuff they believe is crazy, but they themselves don't have like an actual pathology a lot of the time. A lot of them are highly educated too. Um, if you look at oh god, what's that guy's name? The 9/11 hijacker, is it Muhammad Atwa? The main guy. Atta, is that his name? Muhammad Atma, something like that. And I don't think he was a PhD, but he was like getting his PhD in Germany. And a bunch of the other ones, at least had college degrees. They were at least graduates from college. A lot of them, the 9/11 guys. So a lot of people making a big deal about this guy being educated and stuff. A lot of educated terrorists. The guy who was worshiping Ted Kaczynski, you know, Ted Kaczynski probably was nuts. He's probably smart, but probably also crazy. He's living in a shack in the woods. Looked crazy. Generally, a pretty good sign you're crazy. I'm not saying the Luigi guy isn't crazy. I'm just saying he might not be. We'll have to see. Left, the left has a weird obsession with violence against their political enemies while claiming the right commits it. Example: John Brown. Yeah, well, John Brown. That's like a long fucking time ago, and his thing was against slavery, right? So, but yeah, they have like a weird. It's not that they're wrong about everything that goes on with like right wing terrorist extremists. Like that stuff does happen. You see guys go out and shoot up mosques or not, yeah, mosques and synagogues and black churches and all sorts of shit. Where you know you'll see it. It'll happen where some alt right guy goes nuts and shoots up a bunch of people. Um, but I think my bigger problem with them is that they then try to take those extremists and extrapolate it to take people out that are totally within like the Overton window of what is politically arguable and acceptable in society, and try and just demonize an entire side of the aisle, including people that are essentially center left, like Sam Harris. I saw him probably the most get swept up in that. Joe Rogan, I would still say Joe Rogan's center left personally. I know he supported Trump, but I don't think the weird thing with Trump is he's not like far right. He's MAGA is its own thing, and it's not far right. Uh, it has a lot of like similarities with certain left wing stuff. They're isolationist. They're big government, big spending, all that stuff. They're not particularly socially conservative. Uh, the MAGA people they're just weird though. They're into a bunch of weird shit, conspiracy stuff. They're anti-American. That's probably their biggest thing. They hate America. They hate the West. They hate Western countries. They, it's all the deep state stuff. We're all like, all that shit. They're isolationists. They hate American power. And they think America's only good if like if Trump is in charge. And even then it's only like half the time. Only like half of them even believe that. Charles Assad has to go. Oh, has to go. Dude was coward, fled to Russia. I thought maybe he was going to Iran, but said go Bashar. I was saying Bashar al-Assad has to. Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. Yeah. Yeah. I'm hoping the Russians will try and trade him so they can keep their naval base. I think that would be hilarious. I don't think it's going to happen, but I don't know why else they have him other than he had some sort of insurance deal with them. The worst president in American history. We'll see. He's got 4 more years, man. We'll see. I don't know. Biden definitely gave him a run for his money, I would say. And it's always hard to judge presidents. It's hard to judge things historically when they're so like recent and present in the moment. Um, we'll see, is what I'll say. I'll see how he does these next 4 years. Like right now, the worst thing he did, I would say, is January 6th. The drawing down in Afghanistan is probably the next thing. Probably his perfect phone call with Zelensky, that was pretty bad too. I say the perfect phone call. That's what he called it. Essentially, the thing where he was saying, essentially implying that he's not going to give them aid if they don't investigate Biden. Basically, all that stuff was nasty and bad, especially January 6th. That's by far the worst thing he did. All that stuff. he bungled the pandemic, so that was pretty bad. But I think that could have happened to anybody. Most of the world leaders fucked it up in exactly the same way he did. So I don't blame him as much for that as some people do. But then you look at all the stuff Joe Biden did, and it was just no excuse. There was no excuse for any of it. And trying to compare it and say, like, was the fuck up at the border as bad as like January 6th? Like, they're very different things, right? They're extremely different, but they're both horrible and inexcusable. Like, you don't get away with just like just letting that happen, just letting like the whole border go to shit. Millions and millions of illegals coming in, and then telling people, gaslighting people, and saying it's not actually happening for years. For years, like that was the most obnoxious thing to me. And then the Afghanistan thing, obviously, probably the worst thing he did. That was worse than Trump. Just Trump took out most of the troops, and he set it up to where maybe you could argue like, oh well, he had to. It was either that or another surge, which is probably true, but he should have done the surge. What else did Trump do? He abandoned, I think, he abandoned some of our allies. Didn't he abandon some of the Kurds somewhere? Let a bunch of them die. Is there any modern terrorists the left worships? I mean, I was on TikTok and they were like, "We need Mario and Wario," in reaction to some trans things in Congress. Uh, any modern terrorists the left worships? You saying that they don't worship? I don't know. It could be. Um, I don't know. I saw a lot of them praising. I don't know about the left so much as like young people who are highly supportive of Hamas. Disturbingly, they big fans of Hamas, big fans of Osama bin Laden, and this Luigi dude. But anyway, it's been almost an hour, longer than I meant to go. So I already covered everything I think I was going to talk about and more. Tulsi's boyfriend is gone. Uh, maybe they'll meet again someday in Russia. From Russia with love. Stupid people on TikTok. Yeah. All right. See you later. Have a great night.